Hey everyone, this is Sunday with Farmers Business Network, and I'm here today with the FBN Chief Economist, Kevin McNew, to answer some questions about the October report from the USDA. So, Kevin, let's talk about what the USDA said in their October report. Can you give us a few highlights from that report?
Yeah, Sunday. I mean, what USDA showed the trade in their October report was a slightly higher corn yield estimate, going up 0.2 of a bushel on corn, and then a 1 bushel increase on beans, going up to 51.5. So that shocked the trade a little bit at how high the bean number is. But those that are in FBN and who have been participating in our yield survey kind of knew that was probably coming. So we're still collecting that data, but we'll talk about that here.
Gotcha. And what adjustments do you think will be made for November's numbers from the USDA?
Yeah, I mean, what we're seeing from our FBN farmers is pretty clear case for higher soybean yields. So we said that going into the October report that USDA had undershot the soy number. They needed to revise it. They did revise it. But even with that higher benchmark at the US at 51.5, we still have a pretty clear case for another adjustment higher. Now, whether that will shock the trade enough to, push beans below $12, we'll have to wait and see what the trade estimates are. But our data from FBN farmers shows Nebraska is a state that is really having a strong year on soy yields. Some of that is just because of really good growing season weather, but some of it's because we saw acres that were put into normal corn ground under irrigation. And so a lot of farmers, particularly in that south central part of the state that's heavily irrigated, a lot of that acreage ended up in soybean ground. And so we're seeing just super strong yields from Nebraska. The other footnote I would add, based on the latest data we have from FBN farmers, we're still not very far along in Illinois. Only about half the crop is cut in Illinois for soybeans. The yields there of late have been a little lower. So I still want to reserve judgment, if you will, on Illinois yields, because that could really change the US picture. They are the largest state on soybean production. So what happens in the next couple of weeks as they wrap up harvest will be instrumental as we go into USDA's report on November 9th.
Gotcha. And I know that you mentioned some data from FBN growers, and we have our own report that uses FBN grower data. So can you talk a little bit about what makes the FBN reporting just a bit different from the USDA and how that impacts the numbers that we see?
Right. One of the great things about FBN is, the data that farmers contribute anonymously, it gets aggregated up and it gets returned to them in some sort of meaningful fashion for analysis and insights that they can make decisions on. And that's one of the things we've really deployed around acreage in the spring, yields now in harvest. We're getting this farmer data coming in from our FBN products, and we're seeing how yields are stacking up from the farmers that are contributing that data. And so it gives us a very real-time picture of how yields are turning out. And so unlike other analysts who don't have the depth of network that we do, or maybe are only talking to a few farmers or a handful of farmers, we have thousands upon thousands of farmers giving us this data. And again, we're aggregating it and anonymizing it and giving it back to them to hopefully make critical marketing decisions ahead of key reports like the November 9th report coming up.
Awesome. Yeah, that's great. And I guess as sort of a final question for farmers that are watching, what are the potential market impacts for them as they're looking ahead toward November and the months to come?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing right now on everyone's mind, Sunday, is just the cost and the fertilizer price increases and overall supply chain issues. I mean, it's worldwide. It's not just in agriculture, but agriculture in particular is seeing just massive increases in fertilizer cost. Will that subside anytime soon? My take on it is probably not. These are systematic problems. Not just kind of COVID related supply disruptions, but also intertwined with climate change. A lot of this is associated with China's policy to move away from coal as an energy source for electricity, Urea, which is a major component for nitrogen fertilizer going into corn. Urea prices are strongly related or strongly higher because of the cutback on coal-based energy. And so there's so many shifting dynamics right now. We can't just point to one or two things that could potentially get solved and clear things up. So I really think the next 6 months are going to be extremely challenging for farmers, difficult for making these decisions for 2022. But overall, I think commodity prices will continue to rise just because of these underlying dynamics that I think are supportive here. So we may be talking about a bigger increase in soybean numbers, soybean yield, but I don't think that's necessarily deflationary in the short run. And I think especially feed grains, corn in particular, is just going to be probably shooting sharply higher as we get into the spring and the potential cutback we see in acreage for not only the US, but the globe as a result of these high fertilizer prices.
Awesome. Well, a lot for growers to think about, but I really appreciate your insight, and thank you so much, Kevin. And I really appreciate it as always.
Thank you, Sunday.
Thanks.